You need to be a bad bitch. I agree with that. And being a bad bitch might include things like, stating your boundaries and saying something's not okay, or saying you don't want to go out with that person, or, whatever. I think there's a variety of things. But I think also if someone is maybe exhibiting stalking behaviors, some of which I already said, right? Like suddenly they're texting you a million times, they're driving by the house, they're showing up unannounced at your place of work or at your gym or whatever, all put together in a series of like 2 weeks or more. Um, some stalking cases last for years upon years. That is considered stalking, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if the behavior is unwanted, like you don't want them doing those things, and it's starting to cause you to be fearful. So that's essentially the definition, is like a series of behaviors, you're starting to be scared about it, and it's lasting for 2 weeks or more, let's say.
Oh, wow.
So I feel like there was a question and I never answered it.
I don't know. Look, bad bitches.
I just got into it.
They're just going to follow what you say.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying. All right. So I got drawn into that. That was really awesome. So I have a question about the stalkers themselves.
Sure.
So have you done any research about what things that have happened in their backgrounds? Like what leads to this type of behavior?
To it? What's the motivation? Like, why do we know?
I mean, where can we stop it?
Yeah.
Like, can we stop it earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's two different roads here. It's like giving the general public the education and the advocacy and the awareness. And then, yes, I think there's another piece to it that consists of starting to teach young adults, maybe even like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade at an early age, people who are men and women and non-binary folks, proper boundaries and what healthy relationships are and how we should treat people in a certain way and what's wrong and what's right. I think that sort of education needs to be in school systems earlier. That's the only really root way that I can think of, because you're right, at a certain point, things have escalated and people are just going to get in trouble and they might not change, because by the time you're 25 to 30, you're already fully formed and developed anyway.
Yeah,
right?
You have these ideas in your head that this is what love is. This is what it looks like for you.
Yeah.
And you don't understand how frightening it is for the person on the other side.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, and you made such a great point. I think folks don't understand how terrifying it can be, because there are so many unknown pieces to stalking, and it's always that idea of like what's coming next, and you just can't know, and that's the unfortunate.
I really like this thing you said about setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Because here in our society, we don't have a strong sense of boundaries. Mm-hmm. You have to hug your Uncle Joe, no matter what Uncle Joe likes to do to you while you're giving him a hug, right?
Right.
You've got to be respectful to people that you shouldn't be respectful to, because they're hurting you in ways. And like you were saying, it's hard to be a woman and saying that you're not attracted to a man who has, been very nice to you over the past 2 weeks, and you've known that he's got a crush on you, but you just don't feel the same way. What are you supposed to do? And you're supposed to be nice and let him down easy, but what does that look like? And letting someone down is never easy.
It's never easy.
Just do it. Be honest. Be straightforward, and draw that line.
That's what I say. Boundary. Yeah, I agree with that. That's what I say. I know it's hard sometimes, but I think also if you have support systems, if you have that one friend or that one coworker or that one family member who can back you up, who can be supportive, who can encourage you to keep those boundaries for yourself, that can be helpful.
So when you're talking about the documentation, should you include those people and let them see what you're documenting about, so that somebody else is aware?
Yeah, one of the other things I say always is tell someone, so you're not alone with what's going on, and tell them as much as you're comfortable with, or as little as you feel is necessary. Since there might be some things in some stalking cases that can be incredibly uncomfortable, right? Or it could also in some stalking situations, there might be other things that have happened that constitute other types of crimes, right? Things can oftentimes overlap and intersect. So I feel like I'm always going off on a tangent because there's so much to say, right?
Well, there's a lot to this topic.
So much.
Personal relationships aren't straightforward.
It's true.
They have all kinds of ugly twists and turns and warps to them.
Yeah, but to actually answer your question, some of the top things that I say is, yes, document the way that I had mentioned, and then bringing someone in, having them understand the situation to the best of their ability. And the big thing with that is they say that the number one thing that will or that can affect someone who's experiencing stalking in terms of what they do next and the next steps that they take can be the way that support person reacts to them. So the
That's where you come in.
Yes. So the biggest thing that I want to tell people is if someone is telling you that like something weird is happening. Here's the thing too, they might not use the language of stalking because we don't think about it. This person's being weird. This person's doing too much. This person is like around all the time or makes me feel really uncomfortable. These might be some of the key phrases that you might hear instead of the actual word stalking. And that's when, if you're comfortable with the person, maybe you could ask a few more questions of like, tell me more about that, or what does that look like, or what are they doing or saying that's making you uncomfortable. And the big thing about that is you always want to believe the person. You want to say, thank you for telling me. I believe you. That does sound scary. That does sound difficult. You know, I'm here for you. Do you want to check in again about this in 2 weeks and see where things are at? That sort of stuff. And then sometimes I give the opposite of what you don't want to say, but I don't want people to know that. So I just want you to do the things that I did say that you should do.
Stefania, I want to thank you for sharing your story with us here today on the show. I want to say that we believe you.
Thank you.
And that we should do the things that you have told us to do so that we can help other people's lives. Is there anything else you want those people out there to know in the last couple of seconds?
You know, I think the last few things is that if you are in the realm of being a DA or a police officer or a teacher or any type of person that we might say is a person in power, to I would love to see everyone in those positions believing people who come to them and say X, Y, and Z is happening, and really doing as much as you can to help those folks who are in stalking situations because they need your help.
All right, bad bitch. Stefania, I know. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for
Breaking
having me.
Stalking. We'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.